This podcast is part of the It Was a Thing on TV podcast network.
An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Now, Shotty LaRue from my son's favorite show on CBS, which was just picked up again, Frank's Place.
Episode 580, submission number 564, Paper Dolls. Paper Dolls aired on ABC from September 23rd to December 25th of 1984 for 13 episodes. I'm going to call it 13. One of them's a 2-hour one, but I'm going to call it 13 episodes.
Well, you know what, Chico? Guess what? We're going to do it live. We're going to play the Paper Dolls theme song for everybody.
Love it.
Are you excited, Chico?
I'm ready to go.
All right.
Y'all ready for a banger?
Yeah, let's do this. Here it is, everybody. The theme to Paper Dolls.
So we're releasing this on Star Trek Day. I was expecting one Star Trek alum to be on this show. Was not expecting two. But yeah, as is tradition, we have a show that prominently features somebody who was part of the cast of the Star Trek cinematic universe.
No, the television universe, not the... Well, maybe sometimes the cinematic universe, but the television universe.
Yes. And given the subject matter, you would honestly expect it to be Rebecca Romijn, but no. Although, let's be honest, Rebecca Romijn is like 50% of what makes Strange New Worlds really good. 40%?
Sure.
Give me something here. Yeah. Okay, so for this year's Star Trek Day episode, we're going back to the 80s before the Halcyon days of the NCC 1701 Delta. And the hot time for the primetime soap opera. CBS was the undisputed king of the genre, what with your Falcon Crest and your Dallas and your Knots Landing.
Now, hold on a second, because we mentioned it. Now, Chico, can you describe something in Knots Landing Season 6 that you did not believe was true until you saw it?
I did not believe in Knots Landing Season 6 that something would happen to Val Ewing and she would end up as a whore.
She's a who?
She's a who? But yeah, Greg showed me that still from that 6th-season episode, and I'm like, you know what? I totally buy it. I totally buy it.
You totally buy that Joan Van Ark would be nuts to try to be like, hey, baby.
Interesting factoid, Joan Van Ark would play a model manager on an episode of Fresh Prince.
Oh!
Yep. We'll get into that connection with this show later, but right now let's talk about, we had soaps of the oil industry, soaps of the wine industry, soaps of the used car industry. If you know, you know, friends. But how about a hard-hitting expose of the beauty industry told through the eyes of the world's top teenage fashion model and her best friend who is getting ready to enter that industry herself?
Sure. Now, Chico, this was based on a TV movie from 1982.
Yep. You know who was in that TV movie? Huggy Bear.
Well, that's not what I was going with. Daryl Hannah was in this movie, this TV movie from 1982. Yeah, same year she did Blade Runner.
I can totally picture it now.
I think she was in the Nicolette Sheridan role. Oh, I'm sorry I spoiled it for later, but yeah.
Yes, she played Taryn Blake, the world's most famous teenage fashion model. This is a fact that, by the way, is drilled into your head numerous times during the first 4 episodes.
What is that, Chica? What's that fact that they drill into your head all 4 episodes?
That Taryn Blake is the world's most famous teenage fashion model.
What? Taryn Blake is the world's most foremost teenage fashion model? I never would have guessed.
Yes. And nobody knows this more than her mom, who sees Taryn's career as a gigantic paycheck. Yes, she's a real piece of work, that mom. But yeah, it's like, okay, we didn't have any plans on making this into a TV series, but everybody liked it. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take the idea of that movie and we're going to write it as a TV series. It's just one teeny tiny problem.
What's the problem, Chico?
We can only get 2 people back from the TV movie.
Oh, well, that's okay. That happens all the time in Hollywood.
Yeah, you won't believe who was actually in the movie.
Who else was in the movie?
Baywatch's Alexandra Paul was the model that was not Taryn Blake. That was Taryn Blake's best friend. And playing their manager, Joan Collins.
Ooh!
Their manager, a lady by the name of Racine.
Oh, Racine. You know what I think of when I think of Racine?
Wisconsin.
Yes, Wisconsin, but also the team the Rockford Peaches play against in the end of A League of Their Own.
Other notable names in that pilot were the late, great Joan Hackett, who probably would have picked up the series role had she not died. We also got Mark Singer, Craig T. Nelson, and Jennifer Warren, who, alongside Jeffrey Richman, would go to the series. As Jennifer Miller, Hollywood writer, took the ideas of Casey T. Mitchell and Leah Marcus and turned them into a series with the blessing from MGM. So not only do we have all of those people, the models, their mothers, and the agent, because this is a TV soap opera, we have to create conflict. And what better way to create conflict than to involve the cosmetics industry?
Oh, yes, the cosmetics industry. They're always starting shit, Chico.
Yep. And not just some little mom and pop operation either. This is 1980s glamour and glitz, which means it has to be big. Really, really big. A company with their hands in literally everything. So, Harper Worldwide, they have their hands in cosmetics, high industry. I think they acquire a fashion house in the TV series. But yeah, we have Harper Worldwide, headed by Grant Harper, and the rival fashion house headed by David Fenton, whose relationship with everyone was, to put it lightly, awkward due to Racine's best model, Blair, being both David's wife and Grant Harper's daughter.
Ooh.
Stories revolved around Blair's pushing 30 and deciding to concentrate on starting a family, David's running out of money and having to resort to loan sharks, Racine trying to keep Taryn under control with her involvement in drugs, alcohol, and John Waite. That will make sense later. Lori brought in to placate the Blakes and keep everybody in line and create tension between the two mothers. You see, while Taryn's mother sees Taryn as a paycheck, Lori's mother, a former model herself, is trying to keep her as grounded as possible. Whereas Taryn is this Manhattan socialite looking for a normal life, Lori is a Long Island schoolgirl wanting to be in Taryn's shoes. So you have a sort of Prince and the Pauper situation, except they look nothing alike. Rounding out the muddle is high-powered lawyer Sarah Frank, Blair's best friend, who is involved with a reporter doing a story on the many pieces of this puzzle and spending a lot of time with, and now I'm quoting from Sarah, a girl who's done well for a girl named off a map of Wisconsin who has been in more beds than a hotel breakfast tray. And that is pretty much the entire scope of the series. And for a scope this big, you're going to need a cast that is not just big in number, but also big in name. And boy, howdy, we have a cast that is both big in number and name. Playing the patriarch of Harper Worldwide, Grant Harper, Lloyd Bridges.
Oh, yes, Lloyd Bridges. And really, what more needs to be said about Lloyd Bridges? Of course, if you think of Lloyd Bridges, you mostly think of him from Airplane. But let's be honest, real ones will think of Lloyd Bridges as Izzy Mendelbaum on Seinfeld. Just remember, he's the world's greatest dad.
Don't tell that to his son, who is also on this list here. Dinah Caswell, one of the mothers, played by Jennifer Warren, who is reprising her role from the original movie. Jennifer Warren has been in a lot of stuff, but I first saw her from 1975's Night Moves. Julia Blake, the other mother, the one who sees her daughter as a meal ticket out of this dump, is played by Brenda Vaccaro. Legend of stage and screen, Brenda Vaccaro.
You want to know something? She was the last guest on Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast before Gilbert passed away.
It's true.
Yep.
Okay. I told you that Grant Harper had a son, and that Grant Harper's son does not think highly of his father. Grant Harper's son, Wesley Harper, played by Dak Rambo, a year before his breakout role on Dallas and 5 years after he wrapped up the lead in the short-lived Sword of Justice.
What is Sword of Justice?
Okay, I know this because I watch a lot of really bad TV intros, which is like half of the list we have for this show. But Sword of Justice involves a millionaire playboy who is framed for a crime he didn't commit and spends 3 years in prison. And during those 3 years, he learns the intricacies of crime. Sort of like spending 3 years going to YouTube University nowadays. Now, once he gets out of prison, he makes it his life's mission to get back all of the money that has been laundered out of his bank account and bringing everybody involved in the racketeering to justice. Now, where the title Sword of Justice comes from, his calling card is literally the 3 of clubs, the 3 of hearts, the 3 of diamonds, and the 3 of spades. Now, I could put this sort of thing on the schedule and explain it deeper later, but what you need to know for purposes of this conversation, if he leaves a 3 of clubs on your person, he writes, "The club is the mark of vengeance. It holds no man as friend." And if he leads a 3 of spades on your person, he writes, "The spade is the sword of justice. Its rapier means the end." So yeah, he's basically playing a good guy gone bad. Who goes good?
Okay.
But again, I can explain this all in another episode if they'll let me put it on the schedule.
Who's that?
I have no idea.
Run it by Mike and see what he thinks. They, like some Dr. Clayton Forrester entity is controlling our schedule. What the hell?
You can't prove that's not true, Greg. No. Okay, back to the cast. Blair Harper Fenton, Wesley's sister, Grant's daughter, and the wife of somebody we'll talk about later, is played by Mimi Rogers. Known for her roles in several 90s hit movies, including Austin Powers, and for being Tom Cruise's first wife.
Yes.
Also plays some mean poker, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, she's on the poker circuit all the time. You could probably catch her in like a World Poker Tour episode, probably that's playing on Plex right now.
Oh, yeah. Her husband, David Fenton, a fashion designer and fashion house owner, is played by
Richard Beamer.
Oh, and let's not forget, he was also in West Side Story.
Who is he in West Side Story?
I think he's the guy in West Side Story. Fucking guy who is with what's her face? Maria, I think.
So Richard Beamer was with
Natalie Wood. Yeah.
You could never get away with that casting nowadays.
What do you mean by
Natalie Wood, an Anglo playing a Latina?
Oh yeah, you could never do that today. No, I don't think this is a good idea, Chica, for me to say this, but okay. You want to hear one of my dad's favorite jokes?
Oh no. Of course I don't, which means yes, I do.
What kind of wood doesn't float, Chico?
That's horrible!
Exactly! That's why it's one of my dad's favorite jokes.
Sarah Frank, Blair's best friend and a high-powered hotshot DA, played by Anne Shadeen before her big role as Kate Tanner on Alf.
Oh, yeah. That's right. She was Willie's wife on Alf.
Makes me wonder, how did Max Wright land that? Michael Caswell, Diana's husband, and Laurie's dad, Laurie's stepdad, I guess, played by John Bennett Perry, a father of, I'm going to call him the patron saint of this podcast, Matthew Perry.
I thought McLean Stevenson was the patron saint of this podcast. Although, let's be honest, if it wasn't for Second Chance, we'd have no podcast. So I guess we could have it for two people.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Oh, But I should mention, you know who Matthew Perry's stepfather is?
No.
What if I said this? Ah.
Ah! So it's either Keith Morrison or Bill Hader doing a really bad Keith Morrison impersonation.
No, it's Keith Morrison, silly.
I know,
Which,
that's the joke.
when I found out that fact, I was like, oh my God, I never realized that.
Seriously?
No, that's incredible that freaking Keith Morrison was the stepfather of Matthew Perry.
That's wild. Some real wild stuff. Okay, so Grant's first wife, Virginia, is dead. Wesley blames Grant for her death. His second wife, Marjorie, is played by Nancy Olson, legend of the silver screen, whose role in Sunset Boulevard earned her an Oscar nomination in 1950.
Ooh.
Now let's get to what you wanted to hear about. Okay, in the movie we had Daryl Hannah playing Taryn Blake. In the TV show we have podcast favorite Nicolette Sheridan.
But she gets the coveted credit of introducing Nicolette Sheridan.
Yeah, this was her first role, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, obviously, because they have the introducing part, which you never see on a show. Have you ever seen any show that says introducing on it?
I can't remember the last show I saw with an introducing credit.
Exactly.
Oh, wait, I do remember. The last show I saw with an introducing credit, Out of This World, and introducing Maureen Flanagan.
Oh, of course. Obviously.
They took that off in season 2, though.
Yeah, because it was no longer a point of putting introducing on it.
Yeah, she was properly introduced. The lady who played Laurie Caswell, not Alexandra Paul like in the movie, we got Jadzia Dax herself, Terry Farrell.
Yes.
Also Ronnie from Becker.
Oh, yeah. Becker. I think Becker airs on Rewind TV sometimes, too.
And of course, Deep Space Nine is on Paramount Plus, I'm guessing. But yeah, now, Deep Space Nine was never my bag, but I respected the lore.
You know, whenever there's a problem around Deep Space Nine, you call Spencer.
True fact, that's where I got the idea to regularly shave my head from back in the early 90s. Avery Brooks on Deep Space Nine. True story. Now, joining the cast midway, an actual factual model turned actress as Colette Ferrier, a French cosmetics magnate looking to break into America, the lovely and talented Lauren Hutton.
Oh, yes.
Very lovely, very talented.
Maybe the second most famous Gap of anybody. And we all know David Letterman's number 1, but Lauren Hutton's number 2.
Easily 1-2 right there.
Most famous people of a Gap, too.
You know who number 3 is?
Oh.
Michael Strahan.
Oh, that is true. You can put Michael Strahan as number 3. I mean, winning a Super Bowl and hosting Pyramid gets you number 3.
And rounding out the cast as the conniving, borderline Machiavellian Racine, who, by the way, don't ask what her last name is. It's never revealed. She's just Racine, like Madonna or Cher or Beyonce. She's just Racine.
Yeah, let's say it.
Jean?
You're gorgeous.
For the origins of the joke, in case you're wondering for new listeners, please refer back to episode 223, the 1970s live-action Spider-Man, where Morgan Fairchild made a cameo during the last week of the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
Now, there are some major players in this whole place and some minor players. We'll go over them as soon as they appear. But right now, let's talk about all these episodes that are very episodic. Now, every episode, depending on what guide you go by, is either named for a character or is just called Episode 1, Episode 2, whatever, what have you. So I'm going to go by both of them. Episode 1. It's a two-parter. Part 1 is called Lori. A manipulative agent monitors the careers of two young models. So basically some expository stuff. How a chance trip to New York City turns a Long Island girl into the next big thing. And how at only 16, Taryn is pretty much checking out of the whole situation.
But Chico, she's Nicolette Sheridan. How can she check out of this? Look at her.
I'm looking at her, man. After all, she is the world's most popular, most bankable, biggest even, teenage fashion model.
Of course, she's money. Why would you want to give this up?
Maybe because she just wants to be a normal kid for once. She has no friends, her mother's taking advantage of her whenever she can, and she's basically playing momager at this point. She's Kim Kardashian before Kim Kardashian was Kim Kardashian, and without the sex tape. But she was arrested for doing a little bit of the you got a little bit of
Oh, yeah.
stuff right there.
Is that the stuff that John DeLorean likes?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it is. Okay, like I said, Jeffrey Richman from the movie reprises his role as photographer Conrad, but the biggest name to come out of this particular episode, playing Taylor Marsh, Wendy Malick. Dream On, Hot in Cleveland, Night Court. We know this lady.
But hold on, Chico, you missed something. In 13 years, she's going to do another show about the fashion industry. I bet you the title's just going to shoot you.
Oh,
It's Just Shoot Me.
I know that. Episode 2, titled Taryn. David discovers that his partners went to a loan shark for the money to bail out their company. Racine sits comfortably in the middle as Wesley and David bid to sign Lori as their new face, and Blair makes a decision about her pregnancy. Yeah, that's right, because Blair is pushing 30, and she wants to sort of get out of the modeling game to start a family. But there's a problem.
What is that?
It's not a common problem, but it's a pretty big problem. Now, I can speak to this because it is a scientific problem, and it actually holds up. A rarity for a soap opera where the science actually holds up. Blair's RH type, her blood type, you know how you're either A positive, A negative, B positive? She is RH negative. Her husband's RH positive. So there is a possibility that her baby, which she announced in episode 1, may be stillborn due to antibodies built up against Rh positive antigens.
Oh, that's depressing.
Depressing, also accurate. Episode 3, Racine. Dinah feels that Lori is coming across too sophisticated during her first shoot for Wesley. Terrence's insistence on going back to work may land her apart in a rock video, and Blair tells the family she's pregnant. David is pressured to repay his loan, because let's be honest, you're dealing with some shady characters here, you know what I'm saying? And after all of that, Racine is interviewed for an expose about the fashion industry. So a few of the recurring characters come out to bear here, playing Dr. Steve Van Adams, which is Blair's doctor, Blair's OBGYN, if you will. Alan Fudge. We talked about Alan Fudge in Man from Atlantis.
Hey, what's his name again?
Alan Fudge.
Wait, Fudge as in Fudge? Fudge?
Fudge. Fudge. A concoction made of chocolate, walnuts, and marshmallows. Fudge.
Man, with a show with Dak Rambo. Think about that. You have a great guest star with that name, Alan Fudge.
And then we have Mark Bailey, who is the hard-hitting journalist who, A, is interviewing Racine, and B, is in a relationship with Sarah. We'll come back to all of that, by the way. Roscoe Bourne. From All of Your Mom's Stories. He was in 4 episodes of All My Children, 6 episodes of As the World Turns, and 183 episodes of Ryan's Hope.
Oh, Ryan's Hope. Now, hold on a second, Chico. I got to mention something. Okay. Now, before this podcast, I never heard anyone refer to soaps as someone's stories until this podcast.
You've never heard that?
No. Whenever my mom would tape the ABC soap, she'd always say, I need to record my soaps. I never have heard the word stories until this podcast. That must be some kind of a Southern thing.
I don't know if it's a Southern thing, but didn't they have on Supermarket Sweep the VHS tapes?
It was All My Soaps video cassette.
Oh, okay.
I think it was like, I don't remember who made that. It was probably like Scotch or something.
I believe it was Scotch. I'm going to have to look at that. And then we have as the assistant to Racine, a guy by the name of Sandy Paris, who, let's be honest, looks like a freaking Ken doll. He was played by Commander William T. Riker himself, Jonathan Frakes.
Oh my God, I didn't realize he was on this show.
He was on this show. Two Take Frakes was on this show.
That's even as amazing as when he met Jeannie Francis on that freaking NBC show that was kind of like supposed to be a knockoff of Dallas. I don't remember the name of that show.
I vaguely remember that.
Bare Essence is the name of the show that had her and Jonathan Frakes on it. You know who else was on this show?
Who else was on that show?
Ian McShane.
Wow.
Yeah. He was also on Dallas.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Episode 4, Grant. David seeks the loan from Grant to repay the loan shark he plans to testify against. Rockstar John Waite visits the set at Terrence's audition for his new video. Racine interviews a new male model, and Lori's school chums chide her about her not-so-innocent-looking photographs for Expectations. Expectations, by the way, the new line of cosmetics from Harper Worldwide. Expectations, Harper Worldwide. We have the return of Roscoe Bourne and Alan Fudge and Jonathan Frakes, and John Waite plays himself.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. He even sings Missing You on stage. Because, of course, he does. His is the only music that is not covered by a Dollar General version of the artist. We will get into this momentarily.
Oh, yeah, because I hear that crappy-ass knockoff of Pointer Sisters Jump in one episode.
Oh. You hear crappy-ass knockoff versions of everything. Unless it's sung by John Waite.
But they could afford that one Eurythmics Sweet Dream song in the promos leading up to this show.
That's because ABC had deep pockets, MGM did not. They were still recovering from losing all that money off of Westworld.
Oh, by the way, speaking of perfect timing, because On the Bus released their latest episode about the MGM auction sale in the 70s. Let's just say MGM was so out of money, they were just ready to just have Ted Turner raid that thing just to get the library for himself. So he could colorize all those movies.
Another recurring character appears, Chris York, the male model hired by Racine to, he's played by Don Barron, but this is as far as his career goes. Other role was one episode of Another World.
No.
But we also have a name in the person who played Polly Loftus, Mary Edith Burrell. We talked about her in previous entry, Throb. Episode 5, David. David tries to save Tempest Sportswear by selling a percentage of the company to Grant. 10%. That's usually the universal agreement, I guess. I don't know. Taryn and Lori break curfew to attend a backstage party following a John Waite concert, and Racine encourages an enraged Wesley to undermine David. Grant hires an eminent obstetrician as a consultant to Blair's pregnancy. She's afraid she might lose the baby, guys.
So, Chica, you know what prominent New York sports celebrity has a cameo in this episode?
Tell me.
Bernard King.
From the New York Knicks?
Yes.
Famous small forward for the New York Knicks?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the King of New York.
How about that? Episode 6. Sarah.
Sarah. Oh, wait, that was last year.
You don't look like Gina Davis, Stewie?
More like you don't look like Rebecca De Mornay to me.
Parnell sends Blair an ominous message to keep David from testifying. The message is, because she was just having a baby shower, a gift box with a bloodied baby doll.
Oh!
Which is all sorts of messed up.
Oh!
Oh my god. Lori is attracted to Chris during their first shoot together for Tempest. Wesley approaches the editor of a fashion magazine, hoping to plant the seeds of a negative review of David's fall line. Grant and David agree that Blair should get out of New York for a while. We have the introduction of another recurring character, a fashion critic by the name of Grayson Carr, played by MASH's own Larry Linville. Major Frank Burns from MASH. Yeah.
I can't picture Larry Linville as like somebody who'd like appreciate high fashion.
Yes, that speaks to his acting chops. Episode 7, Julia. After informing the family of Blair's risky pregnancy, Grant flies to Miami with a plan to get her back. Meanwhile, Parnell wants all charges against him dropped as the price for Blair's safe return. John Waite invites Taryn along on his world tour, and Dinah is concerned about Lori's grades, which have plummeted since she began modeling. Yeah, she was sort of prepping for the SATs when everything just sort of fell on her. We have a name in this episode, playing Mrs. Landers, Anne Haney. Talked about her in Lime Street, but we would probably remember her from Mrs. Doubtfire, Liar Liar, and Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Episode 8. Chris. A family keeps vigil at the hospital while Blair has surgery. Racy does her part to sabotage the review of David's line and offers a contract to Chris. And Taryn prepares to run off with John Waite while Julia meets with the singer's manager. And Mark finishes his story. Meanwhile, this is not mentioned in anything, but we do have an appearance of a mysterious letter, let's just say. It's a letter addressed to Lori, and it's all in this fancy red calligraphy, and it's so flowery with its language. It can only mean one thing.
What could it mean, Chico?
Congratulations, Lori! You've got a stalker!
Oh. Now she knows how Kieran will feel in about 5 years. Spoiler, it was Chris Lemon all along.
Episode 9, Colette. This is the first episode which features Lauren Hutton as Colette. Grant continues the search for the elusive owner of the European cosmetics firm he wants to acquire. Mark realizes that Racine used him to get highlighted in his article. Julia accuses Dinah of turning Taryn against her. Lori draws rave reviews from Grayson Carr, and Racine starts to mold her brooding male model. So yeah, this is the first appearance of Lauren Hutton as Colette Ferrier. Also, the first appearance of Tom Matthews as Louis Crosby, aka the creepy stalker with the Burberry scarf, who kind of sort of looks like the Blue Ranger on Power Rangers. Kind of sort of. The interesting thing about Tom Matthews, he plays one character in Return of the Living Dead. He plays Freddy in Return of the Living Dead from 1985. And then 3 years later, when they released Return of the Living Dead 2, he plays a completely different character.
What?
I don't get it. But there you go. But yeah, he does mostly scare films and the occasional scare video game. He voices Tommy Jarvis in 2 Friday the 13th video games. No, the NES version is not one of them.
All of your friends are dead.
If you know, you know. Episode 10, Dinah. Wesley tries to renew a relationship with Colette Ferrier and undermines Grant's attempts to acquire her company. A surprise birthday party for Lori triggers guilt over her strange relationship with her parents, and Wesley escorts Marjorie to a play when Grant cancels because of business affairs. He's a mama's boy. He loves his mama. He doesn't care what anyone says. By the way, did you know, because we do a lot of research on these episodes, I did my research on this episode. As per the age of the actresses, Terry Farrell and Nicolette Sheridan are only separated by 2 days.
Oh. I believe Nicolette Sheridan would have been born, I want to say maybe a day or two before Kennedy's assassination in 1963. So how?
So she would be the older of the two by 2 days.
Okay, so Terry Farrell would have been born November 19th.
Yeah. But Terry Farrell is the taller of the two. Because she's 5'11" barefoot. Add 2 or 3 inch stiletto heels, like the kind she wears on the show. You're easily looking at WNBA material.
Oh yeah, she could be like the Caitlin Clark of 1984 had the WNBA existed.
Totally. Episode 11. Marjorie. Wesley and Racine plot to capitalize on Grayson Carr's passion for redheads. Grant agrees with Racine to push Blair as the exclusive model for Ferrier Cosmetics. And obsessive fan Louis Crosby travels to New York to meet Lori, while Racine is surprised to learn that Mark Bailey has been chosen to write the screenplay for a movie inspired by his article. Oh boy! So I mentioned the thing for redheads, right? The redhead they managed to snag, a lady by the name of Connor Crosland, played by another podcast favorite, Jamie Rose.
Oh yeah, we would know her, of course, from Falcon Crest. But I want to say maybe in a couple months from now, she's gonna have a big piece
Really big piece.
Really big piece.
She'd be Dirty Harriet on Lady Blue, let's just say.
Yeah.
Episode 12. Marjorie contemplates divorce after Wesley implies that Grant is interested in more than Colette's business assets. An angry Diana confronts Julia, knowing she ensured that Lori witnessed her meeting with Jake Larner. Colette and Wesley are models of restrained civility during the press conference to announce the acquisition of Ferrier Cosmetics. Episode 13. On the eve of the Tempest show, Wesley tells Grace and Carr to give David's design a negative review. Racine is reluctant to tell Mark anything about her past, prompting Mark to fly to her hometown of Denton, Texas. And Grant informs Blair that Colette wants a younger face for the Ferrier girl. Marjorie makes up with Grant and agrees to fly home. And the final episode, fittingly titled Finale. This is where all of our chickens come home to roost. Marjorie's plane crashes coming home off the coast of South Carolina. Grace and Carr acquiesces to Wesley and gives Tempest Sportswear a negative review. Although he does admit, I've given worse fashions better reviews, saying, yeah, these were good, but I was told to give a bad review on it. Mark Bailey discovers secrets about Racine in Denton, Texas. Yeah, they remember her. They remember all about her. And Lori Stalker fan gets a job working for Racine. Oh, one person who was in this episode, a flight clerk, I guess you could call her, played by Aunt Viv II, Daphne Maxwell Reed.
Oh.
So the episode ends with Grant walking in the backstage. Everybody's celebrating the show. But he's like, Marjorie was in a plane crash. There was no survivors. And that just collapses the celebration. We don't know what happens to Marjorie. We don't know what happens to the stalker. And we don't know what happens to anybody else because that was it. That's the show. The writing was on point. The acting was spot on. Sure, it was a little bit cheesy, but that's to be expected in the mid-1980s. And the show received critical praise to match the movie on which it was based. So the question now becomes, what happened? Well, there was a couple of things that happened in the fall of 1984. I believe ABC had the MLB postseason package, consistently preempted this show to air it.
Now, hold on, Chico. I'm going to call BS on this because I'm looking at Wikipedia right now and I see episode 1 on September 25th. They only preempted it for a week, which would have been October 2nd. Now, that night, ABC would have been airing game 1 of the 84 ALCS between the Detroit Tigers and the Kansas City Royals. And it should be noted that in 1984, this was the last year the league championship series in MLB was a best of 5. They would go to a best of 7 the following season. But the ALCS between Detroit and Kansas City only ended in 3 games. It was a 3-game sweep by the Tigers. And as we covered, of course, in the podcast before, in the Punky Brewster at the 84 NLCS episode, that series went the full 5 games. But that series, I believe, concluded on a weekend. So it only affected the 1 week, the postseason. And on the September 25th episode, which would be episode 2, which is episode 1, it got 13.6 million viewers. On October 9th, it did 12.7 million viewers. But I also think something might have had an effect also on this show, the 84 presidential election.
Yeah, that would do it. Because they had to take them off the first Tuesday after the first Monday. They would have to preempt Paper Dolls for coverage.
For election coverage.
Yep. And then there's the schedule itself. I mean, Tuesday, fall of 84 was just bad. Not just for one network, for like all of the networks. The only bright point, early fall of 84, a little show on NBC called Riptide.
Oh, yeah, because we all know what that was about. The robot.
It's all about the robot, man. And you know what was going up against Riptide? This show.
Oh.
And it didn't help matters that ABC had leading into and out of Paper Dolls foul ups, bleeps, and blunders, Three's a Crowd, and something called Jessie with Lindsay Wagner.
Let me read this. It's Lindsay Wagner is a psychiatrist. Okay. But then it would get moved later on in the fall to 10 o'clock. And let's see what the lineup was. Okay. Later in the fall, we had Three's a Crowd at 8 o'clock. And then a new show at 8:30 called Who's the Boss?
Tony Danza as a housekeeper? For
Yeah.
For a powerful executive named Angela?
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 Angela. Oh, wait. Catherine Hellman's on this show?
Oh, yeah, we all know she was the boss.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely... With a title like that, she's got to be the boss. And then we have something called Glitter.
Like I said, I watched a lot of bad TV intros from this period of time.
Oh, my God. David Burney and Morgan Brittany?
No, Paper Dolls was a masterclass compared to Glitter. And Artie Johnson as a photographer.
Very interesting.
But stupid! But yeah, with shows like that, it could not find an audience. Who's the Boss? A show that premiered with Promise, that was airing on Thursdays, got moved to Tuesdays in order to get lead-in support, but the damage was already done. ABC did not order additional scripts and let the initial order of episodes run out. Which is kind of a disappointment if you think about it, because it struck me as the kind of show that everybody involved with took seriously. I mean, you saw how everybody interplayed with everybody else. You saw how everybody just was really into their roles. In fact, it's said that of all the TV shows that Morgan Fairchild was on, she really wanted this one to last. But alas, Promise could only take a show so far, and as it was, ABC did everything wrong in handling this title, it looked like. The show was run overseas in the UK, Italy, Germany, South America, Spain, and Sweden to similar returns. Reruns have appeared on SoapNet, and the show was never granted an official home release, but half of the run is available to watch right now on YouTube. The other half is blocked due to copyright concerns, the same concerns that kept the show from getting a wider release on video or streaming today. You see, the show used a lot of popular music from the era. And unless you were John Waite, it was all sung by the Dollar General off-brand version of the actual artist.
Yeah, it was like they went and got the kids' pop versions of these songs. Well, let's be quite honest. In 2 years, Nicolette Sheridan will go on. She'll take a plane ride to California, and she'll end up becoming the mysterious Paige Matheson, who turns up one day in season 7 near the end and is like, Hey, Mac McKenzie, I'm your daughter that you never knew about. Surprise!
Ta-da!
Meanwhile, your wife's been kidnapped.
Yeah, and Nicolette Sheridan's probably going to be all, not this again. But yeah, the show, it was broadcast, it was canceled, and it was forgotten almost entirely in the same breath. It started out with some promise, and, well, let's just say, Lloyd Bridges picked the wrong week to run a cosmetics empire. If you know, you know. And in 1985, Paper Dolls started out as a really entrancing movie of the week, only to end up a thing on TV.
You can find us at our website, itwasthingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to be up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
Next week, what happens when you take a divorced couple, have one of them remarry the host of Super Password, and then have them all living in the same block with her ex's mother?
Corky.
You won't believe what happened.
No, sir, you will not believe what happens, but there's only one guarantee. It won't be easy. This will all make sense next week, right here on It Was a Thing on TV. For Greg, I'm Chico. Thank you ever so much for listening. Please be kind to one another, and we will see you for the next one.
Row!
This fall, enter the multi-million-dollar world of high fashion,
I don't want to be famous. I just want to be normal.
where empires balance on that perfect look.
She's impossible to deal with. Handle it, Wesley.
Lloyd Bridges, Brenda Vaccaro, and Morgan Fairchild.
Exactly.
They're with you every week when you enter the playground of paper dolls. This fall on ABC.